One of the big stories, been with us for the last 2 years, is COVID-19. The origin is the top story, but the focus of this administration on vaccination is mind-boggling. Why not give people credit rather than try to berate them into doing something and claiming it's playing politics?
This latest angry anti-vaccination spin from the right all began when the Biden administration started talking about enlisting community leaders to go door to door and reassure those who are still reluctant to get the shot. Still with us, Eugene Robinson and Matthew Dowd. Eugene, Lauren Boebert, Congresswoman from Colorado, had this to say about this. Biden has deployed his needle Nazis to Mesa County. The people of my district are more than smart enough to make their own decisions about the experimental vaccine and don't need coercion by federal agents. Did I wake up in communist China? Gene, these claims get more and more outrageous by the day.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Every word of that is a lie, and every word of that is crazy. Every word of that is deliberate, however, and designed to appeal to this sort of crazy tribal attitude that has developed, that has been encouraged to develop against vaccination. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen, right? Vaccination is a very, very good thing for you. It's in your best interest to get vaccinated. It's in everybody's best interest for everybody to get vaccinated. Nobody's forcing anyone to do it. But if you think about it for 5 minutes in any sort of rational way, you see that it's a good idea. And it's certainly not anything out of Nazi Germany. It's amazing that we're at this point when we're dealing with a matter of public health. Vaccinations are required for kids to go to school. I mean, this is not. This is nothing. It's nothing new.
I don't understand. I don't understand, Matthew. How I don't even understand how Trump lost this messaging, because the bottom line is he could have. And in some circles still does take credit for the fact that we developed vaccines, the world developed vaccines in a much shorter time than most people expected. This could have been his legacy. But he's poisoned people's minds, and now they've run away with it. Trump's just one of the lot now, because there are individuals in America who have decided that the attempt to convince them to get vaccinated is some sort of totalitarian, authoritarian action.
Well, but Trump's legacy could have been a lot of things of woulda, coulda, shoulda, because there's so many different things he could have done differently. I mean, I think if you watch and listen to this, I completely agree with Eugene. It's crazy, but the problem is she's a congresswoman and Donald Trump's a former president. These are people that run Fox News and other networks that aren't the guy in the street corner or the gal in the street corner screaming at people. This is not only crazy, this is exceedingly dangerous, as we're seeing as rates rise in states that haven't gotten the vaccination rate up. And I don't know at what point in time we got to the fact that ignorance and lack of care for our fellow brothers and sisters in this country is celebrated. That's actually what is being celebrated. Ignorance and a lack of compassion and caring for our fellow brothers and sisters in this country. That's where we're at with this. And it's not about liberty. It's not about freedom. It's not about any of that. It's the idea that I can do whatever I want and I don't have to care about who's in my community or how it affects or what I believe may be completely off the wall. That's what the difficulty is. And that leads back to what I said at the end of the other segment. When we don't have an ability in this country to actually believe in a universal way in science, it is a public health disaster that we're facing, and it's actually self-imposed by these red communities that refuse to believe in any science and refuse to care about their fellow citizens.
So this becomes problematic because I want to read you, Gene, something that was written by Paul Waldman today in the Washington Post, in which he says there probably isn't a GOP office holder in the United States who doesn't keep tabs on Fox to see what their constituents are hearing. And now they know those constituents are being told over and over that vaccines are dangerous, if not deadly, and a dire threat to freedom. Worst of all, getting vaccinated means doing what Biden wants you to do. So you do have these members of Congress, Lauren Boebert, well ahead of most of them on this kind of nonsense, but who are sitting there saying, I'm not getting in the way of this train. The vaccine's as dangerous, the communist China, the remarkable references to Nazis. Members of Congress are not helping this situation.
No, they're not, but they're not serving their constituents. If you're a member of Congress, you just at baseline, right, minimum, you want your constituents to live. You want your constituents to be healthy. You want your community, the communities you represent, not to suffer yet another wave of COVID-19 infection. And so the way to prevent that is to encourage, not force, not, no stormtroopers or brown shirts or whatever they're calling them, but to encourage people to get vaccinated because it makes sense. It makes sense for them. And there are lots of Republican elected officials who know that. And if they don't have the courage and the integrity to say that, and the compassion, the caring for their own constituents to say that, then they certainly don't deserve to occupy the offices they hold. They really don't. It's more than a shame. It's just an outrage.